There is a silent law that governs human relationships, a truth so subtle yet so powerful that when you understand it, you will never chase respect again. Respect will come to you. It is this: people do not respect what is given freely. They respect what is protected, not by arrogance, not by aggression, but by boundaries. Marcus Aurelius, sitting on the throne of an empire, wrote words not for others, but for himself. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one to be one. You must stand. You must know where you begin and where you end, because a man without boundaries is not a man at all. He is a shadow, shaped by the expectations of others. Imagine this scene: a man generous to a fault, available to everyone. When a woman calls, he answers. When she demands, he gives. When she disrespects, he forgives again and again. At first, she may be flattered. She may even enjoy the attention. But over time, she begins to feel it. This man is not a rock. He is sand, and no woman respects sand. Now imagine another man. His presence is calm. His voice is steady. He is generous, but not reckless. He listens, but he does not bend. If disrespected, he does not argue. He withdraws. If tested, he does not panic. He stands. That man radiates strength, not because he shouts it, but because he lives it. This is the difference between craving respect and commanding it. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus, once a slave, later a teacher of emperors, said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Self-mastery begins with this question: what will I no longer allow? And so we arrive at the heart of this teaching, the 5 boundaries that make women, and indeed all people, respect you. Boundaries not built from manipulation, but from truth. Boundaries not to control others, but to protect yourself. The boundary of your time, the boundary of your self-respect, the boundary of your emotions, the boundary of your purpose, the boundary of your standards. Over the next parts, we will carve these one by one, like a sculptor chiseling marble until a statue emerges, unyielding, eternal. But before we dive into the first boundary, remember this: boundaries are not walls to keep the world away. They are the frame around the portrait of your soul. They tell the world, this is how I will be treated. This is who I am. Without them, you are shapeless. With them, you are unforgettable. And women, whether they admit it or not, will always respect the man who respects himself first. Time, the one currency you can never earn back, the one treasure that drains second by second, whether you protect it or not. And yet, most men give it away recklessly. They hand it over to anyone who asks, to anyone who calls, to anyone who shows up. They treat their time as if it was sand on the shore, endless, replaceable, cheap. But here's the truth: a man who does not guard his time will never be respected. Seneca, the great Stoic, wrote it plainly in On the Shortness of Life. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. He warned us that men guard their property, but squander their hours. They fear thieves who might steal their gold, yet they allow others to steal their days. A woman feels this instinctively. She may not read Seneca. She may never study Stoicism, but she knows at the deepest level when a man's time is too cheap. Picture this: she calls, he answers. No matter what he's doing, he cancels plans, he drops everything. She texts at midnight, and he replies instantly. She disrespects his schedule, and he adjusts to hers. At first, she may feel powerful. She may enjoy this control, but in her subconscious, something grows. This man's time is not valuable. Therefore, he is not valuable. Contrast it with another man. He is kind, yes. He listens, yes. But his time, it is structured, it is guarded. When he is working, he does not answer. When he is resting, he does not bend. When he is training, learning, building, he is unreachable. If he chooses to give you his time, it is a gift, not a guarantee. This man radiates something rare. His time is a fortress. His hours are gold coins. To spend one with him is an honor, not an entitlement. This is what women respect. This is what people respect. Not selfishness, not arrogance, but order. A man who protects his time shows that his life is not chaos. It is purpose. And women are drawn to purpose like fire draws the cold. Epictetus said, "How long will you delay before you demand the best of yourself?" Demanding the best of yourself means demanding that your hours are spent on what matters, on growth, on creation, on discipline, on becoming. Not on endless scrolling, not on meaningless drama, not on people who drain rather than build. So what does this boundary look like in practice? You stop explaining yourself when you cannot attend. "I'm busy" is enough. You do not drop everything for a text. You respond when you choose, not when commanded. You carve sacred hours, morning, evening, or both, where the world cannot reach you. You know the difference between being kind and being available. And here's the paradox. When you give less time, the time you give becomes more valuable. When you are not constantly available, your presence becomes magnetic. It is the same reason diamonds are treasured more than stones. Scarcity creates value. A woman may test this boundary. She may push, she may demand. But if you hold, if you guard your time without guilt, she will feel it, and deep down, she will respect it. Because here is the law of life. If you do not value your time, no one else will. And if you do, everyone else, especially women, will learn to rise to your standard. This is the first boundary, the foundation. Without it, nothing stands. With it, you begin to command respect not by force, but by presence. In the next part, we enter the second boundary, one even deeper, one that shapes how you see yourself and how the world mirrors you back. Self-respect. If the first boundary is time, the second is something even more dangerous to neglect: self-respect. Because here's a law of life. Engrave it into your mind. If you don't respect yourself, no one else will. We live in an age where men are starving for approval. They bend themselves into shapes they hate. They pretend to enjoy what they despise. They tolerate jokes that cut at their dignity, betrayals that slice their soul, relationships that slowly poison their spirit, all for one reason: the fear of being alone. But the Stoics warned us of this trap. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Notice, he didn't say talk like one. He didn't say act like one in front of others. He said be one. Live it, embody it, breathe it. Self-respect is not words. It is action. It is the quiet refusal to live beneath your own standards. Picture this. A man is mocked in public. He laughs nervously, pretending it doesn't sting, but his eyes betray him. He's trying to keep the peace, trying to look easygoing, but inside he feels small. Later, he hates himself for staying silent. Now, imagine another man. Same insult, same situation. But he looks the person in the eye and calmly says, "That won't work with me." No anger, no yelling, just unshakable calm. The moment passes. But in that moment, everyone watching knows this man respects himself. Women feel this boundary like electricity. Because here's the truth. Attraction isn't only about charm, looks, or wealth. Those things fade. What lasts, what cuts into the subconscious, is how much you respect yourself. A man without self-respect is weak, no matter his success. A man with it is unshakable, even in poverty. Epictetus gave the formula centuries ago. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. This is self-respect, to set a standard and then live as if the world depended on it. So what does it look like in practice? You don't tolerate disrespect. From women, from friends, from family. Calmly, firmly, you draw the line. You don't sell yourself short. If you believe in your work, your craft, your vision, you don't beg for approval. You let the quality speak, and you keep building. You stop chasing validation, likes, compliments, attention. They are echoes. Respect yourself first, and the world will echo it back. You honor your body and mind. You don't poison yourself with habits that weaken you. You train, you read, you grow. Because your future self deserves a man he can look up to. The irony? When you stop begging for respect and start embodying it, the world bends. People treat you as you treat yourself. Women especially sense it immediately. A man who demands nothing from them, but demands everything from himself, is rare, and rare men are respected. Think of a king. He doesn't scream, doesn't plead, doesn't explain. He simply is. His presence carries weight, not because he asks for it, but because his very life radiates discipline. You must become this, a quiet storm, a man who knows what he stands for and will not bend for scraps of approval. And here's the paradox. The moment you set this boundary, when you truly live with self-respect, you no longer need anyone's respect. And that is when it floods to you. This is the second boundary, the fire within. Next, we step into the third boundary, the one that tests your emotions, your patience, and your soul. The boundary of emotional control. Respect, in its purest form, flows toward those who command themselves before they attempt to command others. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This is where the fifth and final boundary lives, the boundary of self-mastery. Without it, the other boundaries are fragile. With it, they all stand firm. Self-mastery is not about repression or cold detachment. It is about clarity. It is the ability to recognize your impulses, to feel the storm of anger, lust, envy, or fear, and yet not be swept away by it. It is saying, I may feel this pull, but I am not its slave. Think of it like a fortress. Every man has gates, the senses, the emotions, the desires. Most leave these gates unguarded. They let every passing temptation, every flicker of distraction, every wave of irritation march right in and seize the throne of their reason. The Stoic, however, posts a sentinel at each gate. He does not forbid feelings, but he decides what enters, what remains, and what must be cast out. When a woman encounters a man with self-mastery, she sees someone different. Not a man pretending to be calm, not a man bottling everything inside, but a man who radiates centeredness. His anger doesn't erupt like a wildfire. It is directed, if at all, like a controlled flame. His desire doesn't degrade into desperation. It remains steady, confident, respectful. His joy isn't reckless. It is deliberate, chosen, contagious. This is why the Stoics placed such emphasis on daily practices. Journaling like Marcus, rehearsing adversity like Seneca, meditating on mortality like Epictetus. All of these were not rituals of boredom, but training of the will. To practice self-mastery is to train the inner citadel, to sharpen the sword of reason until it can cut through illusion, flattery, or provocation. And here lies the paradox. Women respect men not because they dominate others, but because they have learned to govern themselves. A man who cannot master himself is forever dangerous, not in the way that inspires awe, but in the way that inspires distrust. He is unpredictable, like a ship without a captain, blown wherever impulse takes him. The self-mastered man, however, becomes a source of safety and strength. He is unshaken by gossip, unmoved by petty insults, untempted by shallow games. His presence says, "I am here, I am steady, and nothing outside me has the power to unseat me." That is magnetic. That is respect earned, not demanded. So set this final boundary, not as a wall that isolates you, but as a compass that directs you. Train your impulses, govern your moods, hold the throne of your reason with unwavering authority. Because when you do, you are not just respected by women, you are respected by yourself and by anyone wise enough to see what discipline and freedom truly look like in a human being. This is the essence of the Stoic path, a man unconquered by the world, because he has conquered himself. One of the greatest tests of character is how a man responds when his emotions are provoked. The Stoics taught that while we cannot control what others do, we can always control how we choose to respond. Epictetus said it best, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This forms the sixth boundary, emotional discipline. In the modern world, men are often encouraged to either suppress emotions completely or to unleash them without restraint. Both extremes are dangerous. Suppression turns a man into a boiling pot, silent on the outside, but ready to explode from within. Unrestrained indulgence turns him into a wildfire, burning everything around him, including the respect of those who once admired him. The Stoic path is different. Emotional discipline is about recognition, not denial. You do not pretend anger, fear, or sadness doesn't exist. You acknowledge it, you feel its pull, and then you choose your response deliberately. This boundary is the difference between being a slave to impulses and being a master of them. Consider a relationship. There will be moments of disagreement, misunderstanding, even betrayal. A man without discipline either lashes out with cruelty or collapses into silence, resentment festering. A man with discipline pauses, breathes, and acts, not from rage, but from reason. His words carry weight because they are not thrown in haste, but forged in composure. Women deeply respect this trait. They may test it, intentionally or not. They may provoke, question, or challenge. And every time you meet that test with calm steadiness instead of reactive chaos, you reinforce the image of a man who cannot be shaken by storms. Think of Marcus Aurelius, besieged by wars, plagues, and betrayals within his own circle. He did not allow fury or despair to dictate his decisions. He wrote in his meditations as if speaking to himself across time. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. But I can neither be injured by any of them, nor can I be angry at my kinsmen. That is emotional discipline, not naive optimism, but preparation, not suppression, but mastery. When you establish this boundary, you send a message. My peace is not for sale. My mind is not a puppet. My emotions do not run me. I run them. To women, this is magnetic. To peers, this is admirable. To yourself, this is liberating. A man with emotional discipline does not just earn respect, he commands it without asking, because respect is the natural response to someone who remains calm in chaos, steady in storms, and unyielding when the world tries to bend him. That is the sixth boundary. Guard it, live it, and you will find that true respect always follows. No boundary commands respect more powerfully than this one, the boundary of purpose. The Stoics understood that a man without direction is like a ship without a rudder. He drifts, carried by the tides of other people's opinions, desires, and manipulations. But a man who knows where he is going, who has a clear vision of what his life is about, becomes immovable. He cannot be easily controlled because his compass points inward, not outward. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man should be upright, not kept upright." This is the essence of purpose. You stand tall not because someone props you up, not because validation keeps you afloat, but because you know your reason for living. In relationships, this boundary is vital. Many men fall into the trap of making a woman their entire mission. They orbit around her, waiting for her approval, structuring their lives solely to please or keep her. At first, this may seem flattering, but soon it becomes suffocating. Respect fades because she sees a man who has traded his sovereignty for attachment. On the other hand, a man with purpose is magnetic. He loves fully, he gives deeply, but he never loses himself. He has goals that extend beyond romance, goals rooted in growth, contribution, legacy. His partner becomes a companion on his journey, not the journey itself. And this balance is what sustains long-term respect. Consider Epictetus, who taught his students that every person should ask themselves at every moment, what is my role in life? Am I a citizen, a brother, a father, a soldier? Am I fulfilling that duty with integrity? This constant reflection built clarity, and clarity built respect. Women instinctively admire men who protect this boundary, not because they are distant or cold, but because they live with fire in their eyes. Their days are not wasted. Their nights are not dull. They radiate energy that says, I know where I'm going. Walk with me if you choose. But whether you stay or leave, my journey continues. This boundary is not arrogance. It is strength. It is the refusal to be derailed by distraction, the discipline to remain faithful to a vision even when temptation or comfort whispers otherwise. When a woman sees this in a man, she realizes he cannot be swayed like others. He cannot be manipulated with flattery or broken by disapproval. His respect for himself is rooted in the path he has chosen. The Stoics would remind us, life is fleeting and time is the only true currency. To spend it aimlessly is to insult nature itself. To spend it with purpose is to honor the gift of existence. That is the seventh boundary, protecting your sense of direction. And when you do, you won't need to demand respect from anyone. Respect will be the natural consequence of a man who knows why he wakes up each morning and where he intends to go before he sleeps. If there is one thing that separates the admired from the ignored, it is emotional discipline. The Stoics believe that while we cannot control the world, we can always control our responses. And nowhere is this more important than in relationships. Respect evaporates when a man becomes ruled by his emotions, when anger erupts at the slightest provocation, when jealousy poisons his thoughts, when neediness consumes his behavior. Such men become predictable, fragile, and exhausting. A woman cannot look up to a man who collapses under the weight of his own impulses. Seneca wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Freedom begins not with wealth, not with social power, but with the ability to remain calm in chaos, to stand steady when life and people test you. This is the heart of self-mastery, a refusal to let emotions steer the ship. This does not mean becoming stone, devoid of feeling. The Stoics did not preach suppression, but transformation. Feel anger, but pause before you unleash it. Feel desire, but act with dignity, not desperation. Feel pain, but endure it with courage, so others see strength instead of collapse. A man with this boundary shows he can carry both his burdens and his partner's trust. He doesn't panic when difficulties arise, nor does he lose himself when disagreements occur. Instead, he holds the line, proving that his core cannot be shaken by storms. Imagine two men in conflict. The first shouts, slams doors, lets rage dictate his words. The second listens, breathes, and responds with clarity. Which one is respected? Which one is trusted? Which one leaves a lasting impression of strength? Women respect men who possess this restraint, not because it is emotionless, but because it is powerful. A controlled man is safe to be around, safe to confide in, safe to trust, safe to love. He is not a ticking bomb waiting to explode. He is a fortress, steady, reliable, grounded. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but your estimate of it. This wisdom reveals the boundary we must guard. Never allow the external to command the internal. When you embody emotional self-mastery, respect follows naturally. People will test you, life will press against you, and still you will stand unmoved, carrying both fire and calm within. A man who can master himself earns the respect of others because he demonstrates something rare, true freedom. There is one boundary that cannot be negotiated, bargained, or postponed, the boundary of your own self-respect. Without it, no other boundary holds. If you do not respect yourself, your values, your time, your worth, why should anyone else? Epictetus warned, "You will never be admired if you always place yourself at the feet of others." He was not speaking against humility, but against self-betrayal. Too many men confuse being nice with being respected. They bend, compromise, and sacrifice themselves until nothing remains. They hope that endless giving will earn love, but the truth is harsh. It earns only contempt. A woman cannot respect a man who does not first respect himself. When you allow constant disrespect, when you accept being lied to, neglected, or treated like an afterthought, you silently teach others how to treat you. And once that pattern is set, it is nearly impossible to reverse. Self-respect begins with standards, not the shallow kind based on ego or vanity, but deep standards rooted in your values. You must know what you will accept and what you will never tolerate. Do you demand honesty? Do you insist on reciprocity? Do you expect mutual effort? If you do not set these standards, life and people will set them for you, and they will always set them lower than you deserve. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." The same applies here. Waste no more time wondering how to be respected. Live with standards. Protect them with firmness. Enforce them with action, not words. When a woman sees that you do not chase, beg, or cling, when she sees that you are willing to walk away from anything that violates your dignity, her respect deepens. Not because you are cruel, but because you are strong. Not because you are cold, but because you are clear. This boundary transforms relationships. Instead of giving away your soul to be accepted, you begin to attract people who naturally rise to meet your standards. You repel manipulation, drama, and disrespect because you refuse to provide fertile ground for them to grow. Ask yourself, when you look in the mirror, do you respect the man staring back? If the answer is yes, you have already won half the battle. If the answer is no, the work must begin now, not tomorrow, not when things get easier. Self-respect cannot be delayed. Women respect men who live with standards because such men cannot be bought, swayed, or broken. They are not puppets pulled by emotion or desire. They are men of principle, and principle, once guarded, radiates an aura of unshakable dignity. Respect is not demanded. It is commanded by the way you carry yourself, by the standards you refuse to betray, and by the line you draw that no one is permitted to cross. This is the ninth boundary, and perhaps the most essential, the unwavering shield of self-respect. There is one boundary that eclipses all others, one line so defining that without it, every other effort crumbles. It is the boundary of purpose. The Stoics lived and died by this principle. A man without purpose is a ship without a rudder, tossed by waves, pulled by winds, carried anywhere but home. Seneca wrote, "If one does not know to which port one is sailing, no wind is favorable." The same holds true in life, and especially in relationships. A man who drifts, who makes his entire existence about pleasing a woman, will lose both her respect and himself. Because respect is not found in subservience. Respect is born from direction, from mission, from a fire burning so brightly inside that nothing can extinguish it. Purpose is not optional. It is oxygen. It gives shape to your days and weight to your words. A man of purpose commands respect without demanding it, because people can feel the gravity of his focus. He is not available for every trivial distraction. He is not swayed by every whim. He is not enslaved to validation. His life has meaning, and that meaning protects him from being used, discarded, or diminished. Women do not truly admire men who orbit them endlessly. They admire men who walk their path, with or without anyone's approval. They admire men whose energy flows towards something greater, building, creating, leading, improving. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius, even as emperor, reminded himself every morning of his duty to Rome, to philosophy, to justice. He had desires, temptations, emotions, but they were never allowed to eclipse his mission. And here lies the paradox. The more a man makes his life about purpose, the more respect and attraction he naturally generates. Because respect flows to the strong current, not to the stagnant pool. A woman respects a man who cannot be fully consumed by her, because she knows he is consumed by something higher. To live with purpose is to say, I will not be lost in others. I will not let relationships derail my mission. I will not confuse love with surrendering my destiny. This does not mean you cannot love, cannot give, cannot commit. It means that even in love, you remain whole. Your mission is the spine of your life. Without it, everything collapses. With it, everything aligns. The final boundary, then, is this. Never let anyone, no matter how beautiful, how persuasive, or how dear, distract you from your higher calling. The man who abandons his purpose for a relationship loses both. The man who guards his purpose fiercely, however, gains everything: respect, admiration, and the rare kind of love that grows when a woman sees she is with a man who will never betray himself. Remember the Stoic creed: control what you can, accept what you cannot, and devote yourself to what truly matters. Your purpose is what truly matters. Protect it like a flame in the storm. If you lose it, you lose yourself. But if you guard it, if you live it, then no disrespect, no betrayal, no disappointment can take away your dignity. And when a woman sees that, when she sees a man bound to his mission more than his comfort, more than his weakness, more than his need for approval, her respect is not just given. It is inevitable. This is the ultimate boundary, the boundary that makes all others possible, the boundary that turns an ordinary man into a stoic warrior of life, the boundary of purpose above all.